going, everybody? Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 214. Tonight we're going to continue on with our shock building segment, and we're going to talk about the basics of shock tuning. Did a video where we're going to go through and show you what changing certain shims actually does on the dyno, so it should be pretty exciting. If you're watching this live on Monday, don't forget our super sale ends at midnight. Everything on the site's marked down. It shows you those discounts at checkout. This is the 11th year we've done that. It's kind of our once-a-year customer appreciation sale, and tomorrow the prices go back to normal, and they will for a full calendar year, so take advantage of that. A question that came in was, with last week's basic shock building, do we kind of go through the same steps, twin tube versus monotube? Great question. So the shock I was working on was a monotube gas charged style shock. A twin tube is going to be exactly the same. The difference is you're going to have a gas bag in there. And you can go back, check, and probably add it. But there's a video we did on the difference between a monotube and a twin tube shock, so you can see what the internals look like. He'll get that link below. Yeah, the same steps and the same processes. Pretty much most all of the new twin tube shocks use a deflective disc design. The bleeding process is going to be the same. All that stuff is going to be the same. So as we go through this, I'm sure a lot of questions will arise. Comment your questions. If you don't feel comfortable putting them out in the open public forum, shoot us a DM or an email. We're happy to answer those questions, and then we like to answer them the next week because it helps everybody that's afraid to raise their hand in class. So without further ado, here is tonight's video. All right, tonight we're going to talk about the basics of shock tuning. So we just dynoed our shock, and we're looking at it, and we are, we'll just talk about 3-inch numbers. We're 113 pounds of compression and 86 pounds of rebound at 3 inches per second. So the first thing we're going to do is determine whether we want the shock just to be softer. So let's just say that 113 pounds of compression, we want that around 85 or 90, just too stiff on compression. Are we happy with the curve? And what I mean by the curve is, are we happy with that curve and we just want to move the line down? If that's the case, we're going to do that with just changing a shim, and we'll get in that when we get the shock apart. If we say, man, that's kind of got more nose than we want, then what I mean by nose is the low speed, then we would look at a bleed change. If we're wanting to just change the low speed, we would look at increasing or decreasing bleed. If we look at it and say it just got too much high speed as well, so we need to soften it and we need to take high speed away, then we'll look at a particular style of shim stack configuration. So if it's a pyramid stack, do we peel some of the high-speed shim away, or do we potentially go to a ring shim stack to peel some high speed away? Because we can take this graph and then bend it down as well. But for this video, I'm happy with the curve. We're just going to try to soften that compression a little bit, and we're going to show you what that looks like. Alright, so we got our shock apart. If you're curious how that process works, make sure you watch last week's episode where we show how to rebuild a shock. Finish busting this guy loose. So we'll get our piston nut off. As I mentioned in last week's video, we want to make sure that we take the shims off and lay them out in the exact fashion that they came off. So the first shims I took off, that's our rebound stack, and the second shims, the bottom of the piston, that is our compression stack. So this is what we would call a ring shim stack, where we have the ceiling shim and then a ring shim and then an inner shim. And what we're doing there is when we get to the next shim, we're preloading that. So this is probably 12 thou guessing, and that's probably 6. So we're preloading that stack. Alright, so we want to soften it. It was 113. We said we wanted to be I forgot what I said, 85 to 90 or something like that. Okay, let's just pretend we want to be 85 to 90. So as we look at this stack, the first shim against the piston, that's the most powerful, okay? So this shim was up against, so that's the most powerful, that's the first shim to open, and that's gonna time the rest of these openings. So this is the most powerful. We'll measure that shim and see what it is. And this is a 10,000ths thick shim. Okay, so this is a 10,000th thick shim. So a lot of this will be trial and error for you, because depending on how much the piston flows will determine when you make a 2 thou shim change how much it changes. Knowing our pistons the way we do, I think if I go from a 10 to an 8 here, I think we're going to be pretty close to that number. If I felt like that wasn't going to be a powerful enough change, I would also change the next shim down the line, not the ring shim setup, but the next shim down the line. Or if I thought this was going to be too powerful of a change, if I thought this would change at 40 pounds, I would change a shim farther down the line on this style of shim setup. So I went over to the shim box. I got a 8 thou thick shim. We're going to put that as the sealing shim on the compression side, put the shock back together, bleed it. We went through all that process last week if you want details on that, and then we'll put it on the dyno and see what our graph looks like. Alright, so we just ran the dyno test. You can see we were 113, now we're 92. I think we said 85 to 90. If we really wanted to be closer to that 85 side, I would take it back apart and change the very last shim on the stack, which is the least powerful. I'd go down 2 thousandths on that, and that would probably get me, might be 84 or so, 83. But to change a shock 2 pounds is extremely difficult. So typically, if like 90 is our target number and you're hitting it at 92, that's pretty darn good. So that kind of gives you an idea on tuning. Again, if we were going to tune low speed, it would be more of a bleed adjustment. If the whole graph needed to change, it might be a piston change. But for the simplicity of just showing you stiffer, softer, flipping shims, changing some diameters and thicknesses, that's how you do it. All right, we hope you got something out of that. As always, if you've watched this long, subscribe to our YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're watching on Facebook, share this video. It greatly helps us. We, I think, have 4 more of these coming in the shock build segment, and hope to see you guys back here next week. Good luck wherever you're racing.